the Young Lawyers Division of the American Bar Association. Years ago when I began emailing in the library, I wanted office number 3 to be women, yes, that wanted to come to work, yes, that would handle the lawsuits, yes, knowing that quite possibly, right, there'd be some sexuality involved in the office. Now, more recently, I've been emailing those in international law firms, yes, those that are quite a bit older, yes. And I really didn't want to email them. I just thought, somebody's going to represent me in this, yes. Because any time that you have false arrest, yes, false imprisonment, ooch, fraudulent use of mental health evaluations, right, the threat of involuntary incarceration in mental institutions, yes, and this whole idea that it's not the sheriff that served me in the Sequim Public Library, it was somebody else, yes, and then my son's being in the wrong grades, right, and my want to speak to Marilyn Van Proyn about the picture of my sister Susan Bowers in the Rotary newsletter. Now, I thought that somebody had falsified my state identification. And then I found out about the falsification of the actual marriage license of my parents. Yeah. And I thought for sure that every time I find another fraud, yes, there are those that are liable for the enforcement of the laws. Now, I emailed the chief of police of Port Angeles. Can you tell me why the police department is refusing to enforce my rights? What is the actual reason, yes, that you don't think it's a crime to use forgery and fraud when issuing court orders? Yes. And then there's the marriage license, the certificate from the United Nations? Yes. And then I documented that I never got any notice of court hearings before you issued the dissolution of marriage. Yes. I never got the dissolution of marriage. Oh, and I wasn't going to motion the court because the court never protected my rights as a citizen of the United States. Is there some reason why the Port Angeles Police Department doesn't have a problem with what's going on? Now, I would have thought that you would have walked right across the street and you would inform the court commissioner, yes, Superior Court Judge Brent Baisden, that you have to give reasonable notice and an opportunity to be heard. And notice of the hearing was or had to be served on the respondent, yes, by personal service. Oh, service by publication, service by mail. Now, the respondent has to receive actual notice of the court hearing. Now, for CalGill, yes, having a court hearing 48 days right now violates the requirements of the RCWs of the state of Washington. Yes, it does. So the idiots that are in the employees, could you please explain to me why there is this reluctance to obligate the enforcement of the laws? Now, Chief of Police of Squim, yes. Could I have your chin today? Yes. And then I would like to know why the Sequim Police Department is refusing to enforce the laws. Now, obviously, you could see that I wasn't in Sequim, Washington. Right. On December 31st of 2015, you are still obligated to exonerate me, yes, of any wrongdoing. Yeah. And then you are required by law to remove the fraudulent mental health evaluation. Yes, because I provided the evidence necessary to prove my innocence. Now, since you issued this protection order 48 days after reissuing the temporary protection order, yes, and I was not served, yes, and then you issued it, and 2 weeks later you served. Why are you reluctant to enforce the laws of the United States? What's the problem? I emailed myself. Yes. I emailed a police officer that I have personally talked to. Yes. That at one point during my arrest on February 23rd of 2019 at this very library. Yes. When I was not in Sequim, Washington on February 9th at 11 p.m. Yes. Where you committed that violence against myself, the malicious harassment. Yes. Should have been a Terry stop. Yes, you should have asked me to go outside and question me. I would have told you that I was at my residence at that time. But instead, the officer agreed to arrest me because a warrant that was issued from Squim, Washington. You put me in the can, and I got released at midnight that night without any of my money. Now, I told the officer, no, I'm going to continue to email you because, as the school resource officer, yes, you have to protect the civil rights of students and parents. Now, for every job description that you have different amounts of responsibility. Yes, and I am wanting to sue you and have you. I said, no, I'm going to continue to email you, and then you're going to enforce the law. Now, Officer Swift, yes, you were the one that transported me across county lines. Yes, after they issued the failure to appear in Jefferson County. Yes, when I asked you, do you know about civil rights? And you said you did. You've been on the police force for the last 15 years. Now, for you, okay, I'm wanting to sue you and have you prosecuted. Yes, for the false arrest. Yes, it should have been a Terry stop. Ouch. You should have gotten a copy of the criminal complaint. Yes. And you would have seen that I was sitting in front of the Masonic Temple on June 16th of 2017. Yes. And I was not cyber stalking because you received emails from me on that day. Yes. Of the actual videos that I was making. Now, did you agree to arrest me and transport me across county lines right now? Because we had a talk in the police car while you were transferring me to Jefferson County. Now, is there some reason that this officer right now doesn't understand that I do not like your malicious defense? Yes, of continuously harassing me, yes, and annoying me. And then there's Sheriff Bill Benedict. Pooh! Quite often I have talked about the sheriff of Clallam County. Yes. Then there is Deputy Chief of Police of Port Angeles, Washington. That in the newspaper you said that you are a graduate of the FBI's academy, and at that academy they must have educated you about civil rights. Yes, the civil rights to make sure, yes, he does, that you always give an individual notice and opportunity to be heard. Yes, you never use any forgery. You don't use fraud. Pooch. And if you have any knowledge right now, excuse me, gold belt buckle, I personally asked you.